Welcome to another episode of the Photographer versus Photographer Conversation Series. This is the third one that I've been able to do. I've been interviewing other photographers. It's been a different perspective on what it's like to be a photographer. This is especially for you if you are new to photography and want to learn about the special devices, tools and tricks, and how we've overcame all mindsets and what we would tell ourselves from 10 years ago. The 10 years ago person is completely different from the photographer that you are meeting today. And today, I have the honor of conversing with Mike Smith of Shots by Mike Smith. He is a photographer, videographer, graphic designer. So he's actually an Atlanta native. So he studied at GSU, Georgia State University. And he also has the opportunity to work with a lot of media outlets, been in and out the industry, and also was a teacher. He was a teacher not only for high school students, but he still teaches to this day on social media. So you definitely want to make sure that you follow him on social media. And we met in 2014. So think about it. There's all the time the photographers that you admire, they start to have their own workshops and you want to learn how to master your lighting. So every photographer that you trust and know, they too had to study from someone or study from somewhere. So we actually met in person, cross paths just about at an Alan Cooley workshop. And if you don't know who Alan Cooley is, he's definitely been the go-to. You know, he's under the wing of Derek Blanks and also taught at SCAD. Anybody who knows about SCAD definitely knows about Alan Cooley. So we're going to talk about how he got started in photography, how he got started in all things creative, why it's important for you to fulfill your purpose, and it's going to be a fun conversation. So hi, Mike. Thank you for being here.
How are you? Thank you for inviting me. This has been such a pleasure. I've been looking forward to it. So trying to make sure, I was like, do I look all right? Before I get on camera, make sure all my audio works. And I was like, dang, my AirPod's not working right. I said, it's going to be all right, though. It's going to be all right.
It's good. It's good. We're here. You're present. That's the most important thing. We're alive. We're healthy. That's also the most important thing.
Right. Hey, especially during this time. So that's different.
So let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning of how little Mike came into. Let's talk about how little Mike first picked up a camera. Let's start there.
Oh, man. Well, funny. I am a junior, so my nickname is Little Mike to the family. So that's funny. How did I pick up a camera? I'll give you the condensed version. My mom really loves videos, pictures, slideshows, things like that. So we've always had a camera in our face, me, my brother and sister, since we were little. And so growing up, you know, pictures were always a big thing. She's always taking pictures, capturing the moments. And so growing up under that type of influence, in 2009, I think I came across a Nikon D40. I think she got it from a friend of hers that she was dating at the time, matter of fact. And when I discovered I can switch out lenses, I was like, hold on, this might work. And so I practiced with it. And then while at Georgia State, I got my business degree from Georgia State. So while at Georgia State, we were able to check out equipment from, it's called the Digital Aquarium, where you can, you know, use Max and things like that, Final Cut. And so I was able to check out, I think then, a Nikon D80. Fell in love with it right away. So in 2009, September 2009, I used my refund check to buy me a camera, an external flash, a memory card. And I think it was a 2-lens kit that I bought with it. Hit the ground running. And I was on YouTube. I was asking people, because I was doing a lot of free work just to use the camera and learn how to use it. So I'm self-taught. And so that was from 2009. And then so I think 2010, maybe around that time, I bought my first set of cheap lights from like Cowboy Studio or something. It was like a 5-light set for $500 or whatever. And I went to town. I was shooting everything I could shoot at the house and just trying to understand. And just, I'm big on self-education. So I just dove in. I said, if I'm gonna learn it, I'm gonna learn it. And I started with strobes. I didn't even start with constant lights. I was like, I want to learn how to shoot with these strobes, with this light, get a trigger, figure this out. And so that's how 10, 11 years later, I'm still here, still growing. And then at this point, now helping people understand lighting, and just the technicalities of using the camera and just theory, I guess, when, you know, and just how things work, but more so now the business side of it, because the craft part of it is easy. It's easy. So it's, you know, now I'm in that area of life where the business piece has to kick in more, because now I'm full time. So it's now a livelihood versus a hobby. But that's how I started. My mom was, you know, say cheese. And I was like, all right. And so now I'm telling people, say cheese.
Basically, yeah, I love that. But I also love that it's also full circle for you. Because you did get a business degree, now you're implementing what you learned not only from the degree, but also from real life experiences and teaching others as well.
Well, and the biggest thing for me is what a lot of college students don't do is orchestrate their own classes. Once I figured out how to do my own schedule and schedule what I wanted to take outside of the requirements, most of my classes were focused in entrepreneurship. And then I'm in a business fraternity as well, Alpha Kappa Psi. I was the president of my chapter for like 2.5 years while I was in school. So everything I learned in class, I applied to organizational management and, you know, running an organization. So now I in turn use that in my businesses, because I do, you know, a few things, but we're talking about photography. I use that as far as organizing teams of people and how to handle things. And then my sister's an accountant, so I bring her on to, you know, handle some financial things, books, and hey, where's the money going, stuff like that. So the degree piece is a big part of it, but understanding, really letting it work for me at this point. And so that was the biggest blessing that came my way, with just having that knowledge of how to make it work for me.
I love that. And so also speaking of business, I see you are branding yourself. So is that also one of the things you do? Did you make your own logo?
Yes, I drew inspiration from some things online, and you know, I've always wanted to intersecting logo. Came up with the logo, and it doesn't lock me in. So, side note, when it comes to branding, being able to use it across, you know, a lot of mediums and platforms, and so it lends itself to, you know, you see the water bag, you know, I have it on the TV, the hats, the jacket, shirts. So it helps me market, and it lets people know who I am, because now it doesn't tie me into just photography. I'm Mike Smith, the person. Jay-Z said, you know, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So I'm trying to kind of follow, you know, that mindset, as far as, okay, since, you know, I have to sell myself to sell my services, you know, right now, this is who I am, and be authentic in that.
Perfect. I love that. Now, let's go over so we ended at 2010. Now, let's talk about what happened between, let's see, 2011, 2014. So what was that like for you creatively? What was going on back then?
Girl, trying anything I could to, I did trial and error. It's just doing anything I could to become an artist, not just a photographer, but an artist in the eyes of myself, and to say I know how to create something beautiful no matter what it is. So a lot of bumps and bruises when it comes to not understanding, you know, technical terms. Like I said, I'm self-taught. So between, you know, picking up the camera to 14 and, you know, until I met you, you know, I think that was my first lighting workshop. I think I had done a one-on-one.
I think it was mine too. I feel like it was mine too. Yeah.
But I think that was my first lighting workshop. So, you know, okay, I'm going to buy equipment. I think I bought some alien bees from Policy Buff, because I went to a cool photo shoot. I was doing some free behind the scenes work. Who is the photographer? It was a female photographer, well known still to this day. But I saw her using alien bees. So, you know, I'm always learning, taking pictures of stuff. And so just investing in equipment, investing in my own self-education, understanding, you know, just how light works, whether I'm doing an event, whether I'm trying to do a portrait session. So it's just learning different aspects of the craft itself. And that's pretty much what I did. And I still do. You know, I self-test at home. But during that time, just testing everything that I could, trying to learn everything, soak up everything that I could, just to be able to say, I know how to take a picture. Because anybody can click the shutter, but, you know, can you make it look good? Are you versed enough to be able to explain it to someone? And that's, to me, that's how I know you know what you're talking about, if you can explain it to me and then make it simple enough for me to do it. Even the complicated stuff. So from just that time span, it was really learning, and trying to fit in time to shoot, whether it was free, whether it was paid, because, you know, once you get to the paid stuff, it's kind of like, all right, now I really need to know what I'm doing. So, so I can keep doing this for a while, because, you know, I want to own a business. What business? Oh, I'm good at this photography stuff, so let me work on that. You know, as a creative, it's kind of like, okay, it was a natural progression to go that way, because most of the people in my family are entrepreneurs, and so learning how to cultivate a business mindset while also learning a craft, in an industry I know nothing about it, you know, at the time. And that was pretty much my process of what I did those years.
I love that. I love that. We have so far a very similar path as far as having, at least for me, with my mom and dad who were the entrepreneur spirits that I got it from. So despite being introduced to a camera at a young age, it was also studying it. I ended up studying it in high school. I was at a technical high school where they actually did have a photography program. And it was funny because I went to two high schools. The first high school, they had a journalism program. So I'm like, okay, cool, I want to join that. But my mom was hearing how obsessed I was about like floor plan. So I've always wanted to build my own house, build my own mall, build my own something, right? So she was like, why don't you join the architecture program? So I hated it because I'm so creative, and I'm like, it's so like mathematical. And so then by the time I went to my second high school, it was a commercial photography program. So I learned about film, I learned about you know, definitely learned how to master my apertures and shutter speeds and all that, that mathematical stuff like that I could understand, because it's just similar. It's just everything's really duplicated. Like, you know, whatever the number is, if it's, you know, ISO 100, it's multiplied, right? So that's simple enough. And then also by the time I finished, I had just finished school, so we ended up meeting up because I had just finished school in DC to study photography. But they had a business course, but what was so funny is I ended up having to have medical appointments the week that business course was going on, so I still missed it. But then came the lighting workshop with Alan Cooley, and of course other conferences. Like, of course, PPA has conferences. There's Photoshop World. There's Photo Plus. So yeah, it's always been a matter of taking the time to learn from the greats, master devices, and just understanding what it is you really want to photograph. Now, at what point did you know that you wanted to mainly do headshots and photo the people? Because you could choose anything. You could stay in the music industry. You could choose, you know, anything. But at what point did you know for sure?
That came about maybe a couple years ago, matter of fact, because I still shoot just about everything. I shoot events. That's anything from concerts, birthday parties, baby showers, things like that, but I also shoot weddings. And then I think I wanted to focus more on studio photography because I like the control. So maybe a few years ago when I started getting pretty proficient at my lighting setups, a lot of that came from Alan. I've been to maybe three, four Alan workshops. Like, Alan is the dude. He's a really cool guy. And then also Nathan Piercy. I went to a workshop of his, and then I think 2 years ago, I think 2018, I tried to work under him a little bit with some of his interns and, you know, things like that. And so that was a fun experience. So just being able to see how people teach, how people work, and I said, I really like this. I really like studio photography, and that's the reason I started with strobes, because constants are easy to me. Constants came naturally, but for strobes, understanding watt seconds and power outputs of different lights, things like that, that technical piece intrigued me, but I like the control. So a couple of years ago, I was like, this is what I want to focus on. And then headshots, I knew a lot of people, since I'm in a business fraternity, I was doing headshots at our regional conferences and things like that for fundraisers for the alumni chapter. And I saw how many people needed a decent picture, not just a headshot in general, but just a decent picture, because they don't have one. You know, at the time, you know, camera phones weren't, you know, as big as they are now. So you needed a photographer. And so for me, I said, okay, let me get good at just these headshots for my people. And then I was able to open that up to other people, then just learn about the different style of headshots. Then that was another whole lane: actors, real estate. Then you had your corporate headshots. And then, you know, you just have, then the ambiguity of what a headshot is interesting, because you'll get half body headshot session and stuff, but I was like, headshot is really, here, but that's another whole conversation. A lot of things get intertwined in this world, but that's when I realized I just want to be able to deliver a decent picture for people. But then once I got good, I said, oh, there's a style to this, there's a method to this, and let me focus on that, because one, it's a little more consistent because you don't have to fight with nature. So just that control over the last couple.
No, actually, rewind. Say that again. That's probably a relatable point. Say that again.
Oh, yeah, I like the control that studio photography and strobes give me, because you don't have to fight with nature. You don't know what the weather's going to be. You don't know if clouds are going to roll in. It might say it's going to rain. You cancel a shoot and it doesn't. It just says not going to rain, and then it does. It's just like, let me stay in the studio, focus on that, and build a business around that. And so that can still be considered a portrait business, but and then you said you studied the commercial photography side of it, so then that's another whole lane. So for anybody who's listening who is just getting started, and even if you're in school, but even especially if you're self-taught, because I'm a real big advocate for self-taught people and crafts and businesses, make sure you learn every aspect of it, because even getting started, just the pricing, expenses, and the things that come with it, the investment you have to make. I wouldn't say expenses, the investments that you make in your business, that expenses will come from, but learn every aspect of it, because it's necessary. Even if that's not what you do, it's necessary. Because for me, not learning or understanding what commercial photography was, I had no clue until maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I thought, oh, this is really what this is. So just learn as much as you can. So just that control, not having to fight with nature, I love it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. It took me a while also to kind of narrow down what it is I like to do, because when I first had my first Nikon DSLR was a 3000, and then I moved over to 7000. Also, in my courses I was learning about video, and then that's when I also realized that most people who were seeing my photographs, because I would take my photographs on out of country trips, that most people would kind of put me under the likes of like Steve McCurry, National Geographic photographers. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But then when I started learning more about studio, when I started learning about, and also when I did start capturing more music related events in Atlanta, I was like, okay, I kind of really like the candid moments of, I'm a December baby, so I like being in control. I like being able to tell you, which poses make you look good. But at the same time, I also love being able to capture those moments where they look back at the photo like, oh, I didn't even know you took this photo. I'm so glad you took this photo. Those candid moments like that. So
Yeah.
that's when I realized, okay, there's actually something here where not only do I inspire you to really step outside of your comfort zone, because the people that I photograph either had never had a professional photograph or had not had one where they had a photographer that they felt respected them, right? So then it just became, okay, my style is candid photography as well. And that's where I realized it also became important, because not only was I the first photographer that they had, sometimes I was even the last photographer that they had. So there's a couple of clients / friends who I would photograph, their life events, their family portraits, their wedding portraits, and then life is short, and we would never see or hear from them again. So I feel like that's a great segue to talking about why you feel it's so important for photographers to be a photographer, all creative, to really be creative. Why is that so important, especially in this day and age?
In this day and age, I'll start with just creative in general. The art that we create tends to outlive us. And so you want to be able to, for me, my whole purpose, I figured out is service to other people. How can I service someone? And so for me to create a piece of art or anything like that, is giving giving a piece of myself to them that'll live forever, and then hopefully that'll be able to service them in some way, whether make them happy, it's functional in some way, anything like that. But as far as photographers, why is it important in this day and age to be a photographer, and even a good photographer? Because there are some bad ones, you know, people tend not to talk about it, but it is. But just being a photographer in general, you know, look at the Chadwick Boseman situation, look at Kobe, look at anybody who's passed, and think about, you know, these photos or these images of them came from people like us. And it's often, you know, people, oh, that's a good picture of this person. You know, I wonder, you know, when did they take that? For me, it's you're helping people, you're helping situations live forever. And so it's important to it's important to not discard your talents, because you just never know where they're going to take you. And so it's very important to just create, to give life to other people and other things.
Absolutely. There was a quote that floated around, and it was something along the lines of what happens, what's almost the first thing that happens when someone passes on. They look for the best or really good photos of that person, right? That's
Right.
always the first thing that most people look for when they're planning a memorial. You know, it's always the photograph of what's the first thing that people look for when someone passes on, a way to relive those memories.
Just tweeted that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've had friends that have passed, young people, and all they had was selfies. In my mind, I was like, dang, they could have just hit me up for a family session or something at some point. And so when I think about it, you know, you have these celebrities, you know, who have all these nice pictures because you have everybody who wants to photograph them, and then you have, you know, the average person on the street that they need that as well. And so it's important to cast people in the best light, and we often do that. They could be having the worst day ever, come to, you know, have a photo session, and they love the way they look. And so now, even if they have another bad day, they can refer back to that picture that made them feel like they were on top of the world, things like that. So I want to get away from, you know, people using selfies for obituary, you know, pictures, you know, and the easels and stuff that they have up, you know, and they using these really old pictures of grandparents and stuff like that. Let's show these people in a good light. Let's you know, for photography, let's create these lasting memories for these families, but also for the people that we photograph, because that's going to stick with them. Because if we give them a good picture, that's something that they can use forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, where are you at in this point of your career in regards to educating others? Like, what do you do now?
What do I do now? So since I left education, because I worked in the high school system for 8 years, so I was helping students, you know, with, like I said, their fashion, their music, photography, video, writing, TV production type things. And so when I left the educational institution, I said I still wanted to educate just anybody who had any questions about photography, just being a creative, branding, marketing, things like that. So I don't look at myself as a photographer. I look at myself as a visual artist, or just even an image consultant, because even, you know, when you have certain clients, okay, what are we using this for? This is how we can, you know, use these images. Let's make sure we get what you need versus just getting a good shot. So for me at this point in my career, it's helping others succeed. And that's really my biggest thing. Like I said, I really want to service people with what I do. And so with that is, if I'm going to service you, I want you to be successful. So even if it's a rookie photographer, an intermediate photographer, or somebody that's been in the game 10, 11 years like me, and I see something that they may not know, hey, let me talk to you for a second, or I'm asking questions to learn from them. So for me, at this point in my career, I'm still soaking up information, more so to learn up, but teach back. And so I want to make sure people that come after me understand, you know, what doing this job is, or having this career is about. So it's not just about the good pictures. You know, why are we taking these pictures? What is your why for doing all of it? But then also in the same reason of finding your why of why do you want to create this art? How, you know, where else can you take it? What else can you do with it? And how does it work? Because I've taken a lot of bumps on the head just in the education piece myself. I've left a lot of money on the table with certain jobs, big brands, things like that. So I don't want the next person to make that same mistake. if they wanted to pursue it as a business, as a career, things like that. So that's where I am in my career as far as the education piece, technical knowledge, business knowledge, life knowledge, and service and purpose, and all those things.
I love that. I love that. Definitely all very important aspects. And sometimes even the overlooked aspect. Most people just, pick up a camera and start photographing, but what is your why? Why are you photographing? What is your end goal with it? Most people don't really think about that. And I feel like I was blessed to know that early on in life because it was so full circle for me. It's like, okay, well, I'm picking up this camera because this photograph saved my life. So let me help to improve or inspire somebody else, to do the same thing. So what
Because
is your why? What is your bottom line for basically your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be, I guess in general, someone who breathed life into other people, no matter how I can do that. So that's why I say I'm more than just a photographer. It's, being an image consultant, a visual artist, being able to create pieces of work that live forever. But at the same time, who did I impact, while I did that? And so for me, capturing moments with my family is important because that's what my mother did as well. But then I realized other people don't have somebody like that in their life. So let me be that person for you. Let me help you and your family, your memories live forever. What type, I teaching my former students about just entrepreneurship and life lessons, period. I have people that have started businesses and sent me text messages say, hey, you taught me well. However I can breathe life into somebody else is basically my why.
I love that. I love that. Perfect. Now, where can people find you on the web if they want to work with you, want to learn more from you?
You can find me at shotsbymikesmith.com. You can find me on Facebook at Shots by Mike Smith Photography. I think that's the name. Shots by Mike Smith Photography. On Instagram at Shots by Mike, and Twitter at Shots by Mike. But I'm getting that one up and running. So let's wait on that one. I'll let everybody know about that. And then I also have a program coming out called The M Word, where that'll be where most of my educational content is distributed. So I'll have that on Facebook and Instagram, most likely Twitter as well. But then I think I'm going to create a website for that. So shotsbymikesmith.com, Shots by Mike on Instagram, Shots by Mike Smith Photography on Facebook.
Okay.
And then also,
yeah, go ahead.
Shameless plug. I have, I'm starting back up my series Before They're Gone. It's the series about giving people their flowers before they die. Again, servicing and impacting life. But that's what that's about. So you can find that on Facebook. And then I'm getting ready to record more episodes of that, especially during this time of people passing from COVID, people being affected by these celebrity deaths and then just death around them. So I want people to be able to say, I love you while they're still here. So be on the lookout for Before They're Gone is coming back as well.
I love that. The quote that's also been floating around the web of giving their flowers while they're still here. So that's
Right.
definitely important. Now you said start back. Now when did you start it?
I started it last year before, and I've done 3 episodes of it. I think I have 2 or 3 full episodes on Facebook, and then just some highlight clips. Because I was going to do a Kickstarter, but then I was like, okay, I don't need the Kickstarter because I have everything I need here. And then when I want to raise money, I'll go ahead and start those campaigns. But I have, I think 3 episodes done already, but I have some highlight clips that people can watch. And then I have a promo clip for it as well, or a trailer that I put together so people can understand what it's about. But it's and just to explain it, it's a 2-part, if you wanted to do it, it's a 2-part process where we set up an interview and then we do a follow-up with whoever you want to give flowers to. And it can be any token of appreciation. I had one girl do flowers. I had my homeboy, he did a tie that his dad really liked. And his dad was a pastor, so we surprised him at church and gave him the tie. He explained why he loved his dad, different things like that. And his dad actually cried. So I was like, yes, money shot. So it's one of those programs where it's all about giving love to giving love to the people you want to honor most. So who do you wish you could say something to? It could be living or dead. Who do you want to say something to now? It could be the same person, and then we follow up to say, hey, I love you, and just get these natural reactions. And I love it because for me, I think it helps people mentally, emotionally, overcome situations, maybe get out some things that they weren't able to tell anybody else, and they don't mind sharing it on camera. And it's a way for them to get released. And for me, I have so many people I can thank: my sister, my mother, a lot of people. So I haven't done my own yet because it could drag on forever. But usually people have specific impactful people in their life that they want to honor, and I want to be able to be a vessel for them to do that.
Perfect. Yeah. So everyone listening, definitely make sure you go support that project because it is important. Especially if your heartstring was pulled just by listening, you definitely need to support it. So thank you, Mike, for being here, for dropping gems, for sharing your story.
Thank you for the invite. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We can do this all day. I don't have nothing else to do.
I know, right? You could go on and on and on. I was just thinking, I'm like, man, I have so many questions, but I'm like, no, let me.
We run it. Run. It's cool. I'm with it. You're not holding me up, so we can do this all day.